Alright, so let's talk about Thailand and its big experiment with cannabis legalization. I mean, wow, this is like one of those only in a sci-fi script moments, right? But nope, it's happening in real life, and honestly, there's a lot to unpack here. Okay, so Thailand is, the first country in Asia to legalize cannabis. Yep, they just went full throttle, like no brakes. They didn't just tiptoe around it, no medical-only stage for long, they just jumped all in. It's wild. You walk around Bangkok, and gee, there's like a cannabis shop every few blocks, maybe more. Seriously, they've got more weed shops than 7-Elevens. Let that sink in for a second. Yeah. And get this, well, they've got these super strict rules for alcohol and cigarettes, like no booze sales after 8 p.m. Cannabis? Oh, that's a 24/7 party. You can buy cannabis-infused food and drinks just about anywhere for cheap too, like, a 20 baht coffee with a hint of THC. That's what, less than a buck. Crazy cheap. Oh, and they've even got cannabis-infused toothpaste. Yeah, toothpaste. I mean, who thought of that? So, here's where it gets interesting. Back in 2018, this guy Anudin Charnberkle, yeah, he's the leader of the Bumjay Thai party. He makes this huge political promise. Basically, he's all like, hey, legalizing cannabis is the future. It'll help the economy. It'll help with healthcare. It's freedom. The kind of stuff that gets people excited. And it worked. He got elected and made it his mission to legalize weed. Bold move, right? They started small, claiming it was for medical purposes like treating chronic pain or epilepsy. Sounds good, right? But then by 2022, they just went all in. Cannabis was fully removed from the controlled substances list. It wasn't even like a slow, phased approach. Nope, they handed out free cannabis seedlings. Yup, 1 million of them, ensuring every household could have at least 6 plants. Talk about fast tracking. Now, from an economic perspective, you can kind of see where they were coming from. Thailand wanted to tap into that sweet, sweet cannabis cash. I mean, the global cannabis market is worth billions. And Thailand was like, yeah, let's grab a piece of that pie. So, in just 2 years, the cannabis industry there generated, what, about 63 billion baht? That's around $2 billion. Impressive, right? Well, sort of. But here's the kicker. Their tourism industry, which was their big moneymaker, brings in over 2 trillion baht annually. Yeah, trillion with a T. And cannabis? It's not even close to a rounding error compared to that. The problem? Legal weed is scaring off their biggest tourists. China, Malaysia, South Korea, Russia, places where cannabis is strictly illegal. These are the folks who visit Thailand the most. And now they're thinking twice. Geez, what a mess. And here's where things start to unravel. First, the numbers. After legalization, cannabis use in Thailand shot up like a SpaceX rocket. 1.1 million users in 2022. That's 15% of the population. And a lot of them, kids. Yeah, kids. I mean, that's just not cool. The government had to bump up their addiction treatment budget by, what, 7 times? That's a huge chunk of cash they weren't expecting to spend. Then there's the tourism problem. Imagine this, you're a tourist, and you grab a random snack, only to find out it's laced with THC. You head back home, get tested, and bam, you're in trouble because your country doesn't mess around with cannabis. It's a nightmare. And for Thailand, a country so reliant on tourism, that's like shooting yourself in the foot. Fast forward to 2024. The new Thai government, under PM Srettha Thavisin, finally goes, okay, enough is enough. They plan to reclassify cannabis as a controlled substance again. But, oh, that doesn't sit well with the cannabis businesses. People who got into the industry thinking it was the next gold rush. They're furious. They're out there protesting, demanding better regulations instead of a total rollback. It's messy, no doubt. Now, let's put this in perspective. In the US, it took us, what, over 100 years to even get to this point with cannabis? And we're still figuring it out. States are doing their own thing, some legal, some not. There's a ton of regulation, research, and public debate that's gone into it. And, Americans don't just wake up one day and say, hey, let's make this legal everywhere. It's a process. But Thailand? For years. That's all it took. I mean, wow. So what's the takeaway here? Well, if you're going to legalize cannabis, or any previously controlled substance, you need a plan. Like a real plan. Thailand thought they'd boost their economy and bring in tourists, but instead, they've got addiction problems, freaked out tourists, and a divided population. It's like they opened Pandora's box and didn't think about how to close it. It's fascinating and kind of tragic at the same time. Thailand tried to innovate, tried to be bold, but they might have jumped the gun. It's a reminder that just because something works in one country doesn't mean you can copy-paste it somewhere else. Different cultures, different challenges, different outcomes. Anyway, yeah, that's Thailand's cannabis experiment. It's a mix of ambition, chaos, and unintended consequences. Let's see how it all plays out. Maybe they'll find a balance, maybe not. Either way, it's a lesson for the rest of the world. And for anyone thinking of legalizing cannabis overnight, don't. Just, don't.